Hello, my name is Ramiro Clemente. I'm from Argentina. I'm an artist, drawing artist based in Spain, Barcelona. My work revolves around drawing and mixed media and improvisation. I was born in Argentina in a little town called Tucumán, which is the smallest province in Argentina. My father always liked to draw, and he always was passionate about drawing. And in Argentina, he used to read a really well-known, really famous comic called The Eternauta. One day he brought 20 different magazines, comics magazines. The first thing he told me was, learn from all of them, never stop learning. Those words were really important for me. At that point, my father was, my idol. He taught me to draw faces in a very simple way. And I realized that I liked to draw, I liked to find or to create forms with my pencil, and it was easy for me to do it. I went against my father's willing when I decided to go to study art at the university. Like many other fathers, he used to think that I was wasting my time. It could be a hobby and I could work in something serious. When I was 18, I decided to, study art, and I think that was the most important decision I took in my life. The first, impression was not too good at the university because I didn't understand the theoretical part of the art and the work behind every drawing or every piece of art. I used to think that the only thing you need to do was just drawing or paint, and that's it. I never had any other influences than my father or some magazines until I was in the universities. At the university, I began to understand what art meant. This process leads me to understand that drawing was my language. Step by step, I've been adding new resources, create new problems in order to find new creative solutions. This process leads me to the point of the style I am at this moment in my life. But it doesn't mean that this is it. The way my drawings looks like today is just part of my process. I always trying to learn, to find new resources and new possibilities, new creative possibilities to enrich my vocabulary and to enrich my work. I never thought to create a career up to selling my work. One day I was renting a room in Barcelona, and my landlord was a street vendor. He saw one of my drawings by chance, and he said, well, you can sell this on the street. The people will pay for this. Really? And I said, how much will you pay for this? And he said, €5. Really? It's too low. Well, 10. I will pay 10 for this. I draw some drawings, and I brought them to touristic street on near of the cathedral. It was funny because the first sale was 2 drawings. I was asking for one particular drawing, and I said it was €15. I remember. I went, take 2 for, no, it was €10. And then I said, take 2 for 15. And he said, well, wonderful, we'll take 2. And I felt really happy because I had my first sale for 15, 2 sales for €15. That was funny because 2 minutes later came the police And he said, the police said, do you know that you can't sell here? And I said, no, I didn't know. Well, take your things and move out here. You cannot be here. Half an hour later, I came back to the same place, and 2 minutes later that I was sitting there, came back again, the same police to say, I told you that you can't be here. So take your things and come with me to the police stations. So that was my first experience with selling my drawings. I spent 2 months on the street trying to run from the police. When I see the police car, I remember to collect my thing and run out. Well, it was good times. My work revolves around the line, but I work the line with a particular tool called nib point and Indian ink. The most important part of trying to combine different sources is, in my opinion, trying to evolve your own language. It's like when we learn a new language. First we need to hear, then we need to repeat, and then we need to make our own decision. And then when you make your own decision, you're able to create your own words and to speak by yourself. It's a never-ending process, by the way. One of those strategies I use to start my work is improvisation. By the way, I think improvisation is not a style, but a strategy to evolve a style. Sometimes I start just doing a line, brush stroke, stain on the paper, and as a trigger. And then I need to evolve that first element to create a story. It could be frustrating to try to start something in the best possible way when you're feeling tired, sad, or you're not in a mood to work at that point at all. You don't want to work at all, but you need to start. I divide my work into 3 stages. My first stage is just conquer the paper and open different possibilities, open different doors that I can walk through and continue. If I am in a mood or I'm happy with the result, I can continue evolving my work. Or sometimes you can feel stuck, you can feel that you don't know how to continue, you don't know what's the next. So you need to stop. In my case, I go into my second stage, which is distancing. We all need to take distance, not only from the work we've been working on, but the expectation we have created for those works. You can find something by reviewing your previous works, your previous marks you've been working on, your previous drawing works, painting, whatever you've been working before, and you can decide to revisit those drawings, in my case drawings, and to continue evolving a particular drawing. So at that point, you're not relying your work on inspiration or your mood. If I decide to continue working because I feel that some particular drawing is talking to me, or I feel compelled by some of those drawings, the only thing I need to continue evolving that work by adding new layers. At that point, you can reach your third stage, which is the resolving stage, when you're ready to complete a piece. And you can find some of those previous pieces that are already done. You need to sign it because you don't need to continue drawing. You can start from scratch if you're in the mood, if you feel comfortable, if you feel inspired, but you can also start from a previous piece, from a previous work, and evolve those pieces without feeling that you need to be creative, or you need to find the best masterpiece ever done. Finally, when you walk through all the stages of your creative process, you are able to understand the whole process, and then you start to understand which part of your process are you walking through. You start managing your expectation according to that particular stage. We all artists face creative blocks, but I will say something strange to hear from an artist, but I don't believe in creative blocks. I think creative blocks are just problems to manage expectations. We need to understand what creativity means. I think that a single scribbling on a post-it is a creative act. You have nothing, and you now have a scribbling, a brushstroke, a loose mark on any paper, any support. That's a creative act. We all born creative. But the key here is to understand what expectation you just created for those marks on paper or on the post-it. If you believed that you need or you wanted to find a masterpiece, well, you will always feel frustrated, and frustrations leads to block. When you don't find the results you've been waiting for, you feel frustrated. And when you feel frustrated, you feel that you're not good at it. If you're not able to continue and you don't like a particular drawing, a particular result, it doesn't mean that it's a good or it's a bad drawing. It means that you're not able, or you have no resources enough to continue with that particular drawing. So in my case, I try to manage the creative blocks by, as I told you, leaving some loose marks with no expectation at all on the paper. So what I have is not good or bad. When you understand that you have a useful resource, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, it's useful. And you can use it to continue evolving your work, your process. And at that point, you finally understand that there's no creative blocks, that the only thing you have is a problem to manage your first expectation, the expectation you have for that particular mark. One day I received a message on Instagram asking me if I was able to teach an artist my techniques. Then I say, no, I'm not a teacher. I don't teach anybody. Just do my things, and that's it. And 1 month later, I received the same message, and she received the same answer. 3 months later, I received a message saying, I'm in Barcelona. I would like to visit your studio, and I would like to take 1 hour from your time for you to teach me how you do what you do. And then I feel really bad to say no. I decided to give it a try and to teach this wonderful woman my techniques and my process. A few weeks later, I decided to post a video on Instagram telling the people this story, and the people start asking me if I could, teach them my process and my style. That's why one day I decided to open an online workshop and to start teaching people. And it was amazing, this journey, because I ended up learning more from my students than probably then they learned from me. When you start teaching, you start to ask yourself things that you never think about, and sometimes you have some questions you never had before. All of this process allowed me to create a point of view, a perspective, not only of what I do or how do I do what I do. The most important question in art for me is not how, what, where, when. The most important question is why. And that's what I try to teach my student. And because that's what they taught me. I have to say that I remember the process of nearly 90% of my drawings. I can remember what I felt, I can remember the problems I had, I can remember the place I create them. My works, they have no names. I've always been struggling putting names to my works. So one day I decided to use numbers. The number I use is the number of entrants in my database. So this one is one of the last drawing I did, because I did it in the creative world in February 2025 in Frankfurt. I brought some colored pages because sometimes we the artists are struggling with blank paper. Sometimes the problem is just the white. The first thing I did was printing this balloon, and which I use as a trigger, and trying to compose something. I never know what I'm going to do. I never start with any preconceived plan. The key here in my drawing is that when I start improvising, I evolve my drawings in a very intuitive way until I feel that I can complete the story. And always try to avoid the redundancy, try to do not overcrowd my paper. In this particular one, I also use two kind of pre-designed resource, which is the balloon and then the character. This character, I used a letra set, which is called a dry transfer, and the balloon was made by a wet transfer. I love this drawing. I use this as a profile picture in my Instagram. I love that one. And it came from a revisit drawing that I found. I used a masking tape to cover some part of the drawing that I didn't like, and start redrawing on top of the masking tape. I didn't want it to leave the face in the center of the composition. I decided to add this kind of big hand behind the face in order to create some sort of weight, compositional weight on the bottom part of the drawing. Well, that's it. I love this character. I love to create those red nose and different eyes. I love it. I simply loved it, and it became part of my identity. Oh, that one, these two guys, this drawing is interesting because one day I received a message on Instagram, one follower asking me if he could use this drawing to make a tattoo. The first work was only those two guys in a vertical composition, no color. One day I decided to revisit again this piece and add the ecoline. I like to use ecoline because as my work revolves around the line, I need the liquid pigments in order to use my nib points. So I used ecoline in the same way I use Indian ink. I made those droplets, I create those little text in order to lead my viewers' attention through all the composition. The last part was this huge droplet that I left in the middle of the composition. My thought was just to balance the composition. There's a funny story behind the last picture because I was trying to place a plane on top of the picture, and then I was using Photoshop to test where can I place this plane. But I forgot to hide the photography layer. That was not my intention, but I finally decided to use those overlaid photography printed on the original photography and to compose something by I don't know, using handwritings and some geometrical and dotted lines and some stencils and some daisies, and finally I liked the result and I left it, and it's now in my shop. We all artists, I think we all have some specific expectations for our drawing. But once we are done with our drawing, and once we fulfill our own expectations, we need to live fly our creation. Our work is just like a joke. Our work as an artist is not to explain the joke. Our work as an artist is just to tell the joke and let the viewers to get or not, to understand or not, to enjoy, to laugh, but it's not up to you. You need to leave the viewers to find the meaning based on their own, not only their own expectation, but their own life, their own experiences. Of course, they convey something to me, but it's not my work to lead you toward my own understanding of this particular drawing. My work is not to explain what I wanted to say. My work is just create the work and trust that it will find some ears, or it will finally the drawings will be able to convey anything, whatever. Art allowed me to know myself, not only the art, but my life as a process. Art taught me to be responsible of my decisions, and most important, art and particularly drawing allowed me to meet people, to meet other cultures, to understand different approaches and to know different perspectives, not only about art but about life, to manage my own expectations, not only when I'm working on a particular drawing, but when I'm working through any other kind of process. Art for me, it's not only a language, but my language. The way I talked to the world, the way I convey my emotions, I feel more comfortable drawing than speaking. I can communicate my thoughts just drawing. And art means family. Art means Barcelona. Art means my life journey. Art means friends. Art means works. Art means life for me. why leads you to where, to when, to what. So my question will be to Antoni Tapies. The question will be why you do what you do, or why you did what you did.